The wait is over. 98.5 Speed FM.
Catch us if you can.
Stay here with you. You are a rainbow, so I am a lucky one. I am a lucky one. You are my favorite song. I am a lucky one. I am a lucky one. I am a lucky one. Same. Your love is constant. You've never lost it. Your voice is calling out my name. It makes me miss you, even when I'm with you. Oh, nobody wants to go it alone, and I just wanna stay here with you. So I am a lucky one. I am a lucky one. You are my favorite song. I am a lucky one. I am a lucky one. I am a lucky one. I am a lucky
A speedy welcome to the show for everyone. This is Speedy Talk on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. And I'm your host on the show. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior, together with... And like I said, I am your host on the show. My name is Marysyntia, and she is...
Felicity Gigi.
And Speedy Talk is a program for the youth where we talk about things that concern and affect the youth. And today we are talking about... something that affects so many young people, but isn't often discussed openly, and that is teenage relationships. Now, it's normal for young people to start exploring, relationships as they grow up, but sometimes these relationships can have bigger impacts than we actually think. Some teenagers get so focused on being with someone that they actually start losing attention even on school, on personal growth, and on things they are supposed to be doing at that age. Now, we have seen situations where teenagers get into relationships and face consequences, and we are going to be talking about all of that even today on the show. Things like emotional stress or even conflict at home because of maybe some of the things that they start to do when they get into this relationship. So today, the question is, how do you see this teenage relationship? How do you actually think it really affects the lives of teenagers? I mean, these young people we are talking about. Now, you also can call in to be part of this conversation. And the number for you to call is 0808 427 5464.
That is 0808 427 5464.
We are talking about how teenage relationships actually affect the lives of these teenagers. And do you think there can truly be any positive side? Because some persons say, well, it's harmless. I mean, there is nothing there. It's just things, doing teen things and then, just exploring and then just trying to maybe know themselves. But But then sometimes there are real consequences that actually show. Or does it mostly lead to challenges? And what lessons can young people actually learn from them? If you think that, okay, there are positive sides, to actually teach those lessons, then what lessons are you saying? And you can call in and be part of the show. And like I mentioned earlier, I am not here alone. I am here with Felicity. And well, we are going to be talking about it together. So feel free at any point in time to interrupt us or call in and let us hear your opinion. So Felicity, what is your view on teenage relationships in general?
I think that teenage relationships actually have more disadvantages than advantages, but it's not entirely bad. But I think the disadvantages are more compared to the advantages. I mean, teenage relationships, if some people do not know, it actually means like getting into romantic relationships at a very young age before people these teenagers get emotional maturity. So it could be bad in so many different ways, and it could affect them in so many different ways, because at that stage of their life they do not actually have emotional maturity yet. They are not emotionally mature. So I think to some extent it's very bad, and it's not, I don't think I'll even advise it.
Okay, but then you still left some percentage of the good part, like it's not completely bad. I mean, you are saying that it's mostly bad, but then not completely bad. So that not completely, we want to hear what is holding it from being not completely bad.
Okay, so I would say the advantages could be these teenagers actually like they'll start understanding their feelings and knowing how to communicate and empathy at that stage, right? So if they get into a relationship, then they'll start understanding how relationships work at that age. And another thing that I think is that they'll actually get to understand what they like and what they do not like as teenagers. So those could be the advantages, and also social skills, right? So they could be able to improve their confidence, their expressions, and interaction with others.
Okay. Hello. Okay, you're talking about them getting to know, be able to explore, and then getting to know what they like and what they might not like. You know that there are some things that, okay, quite okay. Like, let me say, a child will actually grow to like sugar. But then at a certain age, you believe that these sugars will actually stay away, because maybe as an adult, you know that sugar is a good thing, or sugar is actually sweet, but then I shouldn't be taking that much sugar. But then as a child, like you mentioned, okay, they are not yet mature enough to maybe understand certain things. So don't you feel like maybe at that point also, like getting to even understand something that maybe they should not
understand yet
at that point, like, don't you feel like it's kind of harmful to them? Or how would you defend it?
Well, when you say it like that, I think it's actually, and like I said it has more disadvantages, right? To the advantage. The advantages are very, very little.
And I just drew out a disadvantage out of your advantage that you mentioned. So you also can call in to be part of this conversation. And the number for you to call is 0808 427 5464.
That is 0808 427 5464.
Call in and let us hear from you this afternoon on Speedy Talk. I am your host. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior, and she is
Felicity Gigi.
And we are talking about teenage relationships. How does this teenage relationships actually affect the teenagers? How does it affect these young people themselves? Call in and let us hear from you this afternoon on Speedy Talk. So first, I would like us to talk about some of the risks that are actually associated with these teenage relationships. First I would say emotional stress or even heartbreak. People at that point that cannot take heartbreak. That's why you keep hearing, one person ended their life because this, and you're checking it's probably it's a 15-year-old girl that ended her life because this and that. So sometimes even that emotional stress, and then even taking some of those risks because they're trying to prove something. Because believe me, some of them at that age, they don't even know that, okay, there's more to life than I just want to prove a point that, okay, I'll do this for attention, and people will know that, okay, I actually liked this boy, or I actually liked this girl. Right? So what are some other risks that you would say are attached to these teenage relationships?
I would say that sometimes this could cause like emotional confusion. Like young people may not fully and they do not actually fully understand love yet. So they can confuse all this attention, attraction, and pressure for like real feelings. So I think at that stage they do not actually understand their emotions or all these emotions very well yet. Sometimes they'll just confuse attention for real feelings. And another thing that we're talking about, that you were saying rather, is the heartbreaks, right? These heartbreaks could lead to, should I say, trust issues and other things. Another thing is going to distract them from their growth.
Even studies,
Yes,
like things
exactly.
like school. Someone that is
School.
supposed to be focusing on
School,
studies or even
yes.
carry first position will be talking about
Love, relationship,
yes,
man,
yes,
or woman, whichever way it is.
All right.
And then they'll actually peer pressure and influence, because so many young people enter relationships because everyone else is doing it. You know that these days there's no actually like age limit. Sometimes we hear these people that are even talking like about relationships so much. If you hear their age, you'll be like, when I was your age, I did not even know what this thing was.
Yes.
So peer pressure can also cause people to enter into relationships, and it's going to affect them because they do not understand this thing. Like I said earlier, they do not understand this thing. So it's going to affect them if at some point, let me say, heartbreak comes out of it and all of those things.
Even if heartbreak doesn't come out of it, like it takes the lucky one to actually escape without maybe maybe you didn't lose focus from what you were doing in school, and some of those things. And there's actually a lot of it. When you talk about this risk, there's actually a lot of it, because one thing leads to the other thing, another thing leads to, it starts going and going. And I will come to that, what is leading to another thing and then promoting. We'll come to that. But you also can call in to be part of this conversation. And the number for you to call is 0808 427 5464.
That is 0808 427 5464.
Call in right now and let us hear from you. How do you think that these teenage relationships actually affect those teenagers? If you have teenagers, or if you have experiences, some of the things that you have seen out there, whether as a parent, as a young person yourself who went through that stage, call in and let us hear from you. Even if it's something that you regret, I mean, if you're able to talk about it, that means you've realized, okay, this is something that actually happened to me. So let someone else be able to hear it and maybe save themselves from something that may get themselves into unknowingly. And there's something funny about people at that stage. To be fair, they actually think that they know it all at that stage. That is one thing about growth. They just feel like, I know it all. And even when you're trying to say, this is what you're supposed to be doing, you're supposed to focus on this at this stage in your life, they feel like, well, I can focus on that and I can do this. And one thing you see this thing we call distraction. When it actually comes, for some people, you actually take someone who is very focused to know that, something is a distraction.
Yes.
Because they're unable to know that, at this point, I am actually distracted. Or this thing is taking away
my
the time.
attention.
Yes. They don't know that. They feel like I can balance it all. What is there? I have to just wake up maybe at 5 a.m. and try to text someone or do sneaky around. So what about losing sleep? And from losing sleep, you're sleeping in class. From sleeping in class, you're missing out on something.
Exactly.
And some of these things you cannot actually start tracing it like that. But if you pay full attention, you're able to know, this is where it started from. It started from me not sleeping because I was talking to someone over, for a relationship. And at that stage, it's very exciting for
very
most of
exciting
them.
for most of them.
Well, they feel like that is it for life.
That is
everything about life, right? And some of these distractions just chip in at the end without them even noticing.
And then most of the times, the person that is even trying to advise them become the enemy. They turn that person to the enemy. Like, in this era, how can you be saying someone should not be in the relationship or be in a relationship? This is Gen Z or whatever. And they just turn you to the enemy. Like some people even think that you do not like them. If you tell them that thing, they'll be like, you don't want me to be happy. That's the phrase they use most of the time. You don't want me to be happy. You don't want me to do something that I love. You don't want me to be with somebody that I love, and all of those things.
Okay, so you can still call in to be part of this conversation, and the number for you to call is 0808 427 5464.
That is 0808 427-5464.
Today on Speedy Talk, we are talking about teenage relationships. So call in and let us hear from you. How do you actually think that it affects their lives? You see 15-year-old, 16-year-old, even below that, actually getting into relationships, doing things here and there. Is that really the right time for them to actually indulge themselves in some of those things that they actually do? And how do you think that involving themselves in those relationships actually affects their lives? Call in and let us hear from you this afternoon on 0808-427-5464.
That is 0808-427-5464.
Now, something else I would mention on those risks that we're talking about. Now, something that is even of a higher risk. This unwanted pregnancies.
Yes.
Because some people involve themselves. Okay, some persons will tell you that it's just an innocent relationship, but before you know it, one person is advising the other person. This is what people in relationships actually do. This is what we do, and you're supposed to. They even try to gaslight you, like, you're behaving like a child. A child is...
Yeah, exactly.
How else are you
you
supposed to behave apart from behaving like a child? Now, something about teenagers, at that stage is, you wouldn't be able to actually tell that someone is gaslighting you and telling you're behaving like a child. You'll be trying all your best to maybe prove that you are not a child. And you should not be referred to as a child, And some of those things actually lead to these unwanted pregnancies. Hello? All right, you can still call in to be part of the show, and the number for you to call is 0808-427-5464.
That is 0808-427-5464.
Call in and let us hear from you on teenage relationships. Let us hear experiences. Let us hear what you think. Let us hear how you think it actually affects their lives. And we're talking about some of these. Hello? We're talking about some of these unwanted pregnancies, when they actually go on and then get into even sexual relationships, and then someone ends up pregnant, maybe even disrupting them from school. Some people stop school because maybe at a certain age they just got pregnant, and maybe the person that is even responsible, it's someone maybe that is not even able to cater for a child at that time.
Exactly.
To them, they were just doing whatever they were doing and not even thinking about consequences. Thinking about nothing.
They do not think about the consequences.
And then, at the end of the day, there are results, and the results are not so good, and no one is smiling. Someone's future is damaged. Hello? Someone's future is damaged, or someone cannot go to school any longer, someone cannot do this any longer, or someone has to grow up, because when you become maybe a mother, that's as a girl, you just have to grow up. You're no longer going to be that baby in people's eyes. People just expect you to know everything, or just know what you're supposed to do, even though you yourself are still a child. So some of those things are taken away from you. That is how some people build up these traumas, where they start feeling, even getting to depression. Some people even end it to them even losing their lives over things like this. So you can also call in and be part of this conversation, and the number for you to call is 0808-427-5464.
That is 0808-427-5464.
Call in and let us hear from you today on Speedy Talk. We are talking about teenage relationships. Let us hear their experiences. Let us hear how you think it actually affects their lives. Call in and let us hear from you. And I'll still talk about something that, this disrespect at home. You find a lot of these people, when they get to that age, that are involving themselves in some of these things. All of a sudden, they feel like, I can talk back to mommy, or I can talk that back to daddy, because he or she was told that if you are now doing this, you are now a big girl, or you're now a big boy.
They feel like I have arrived. I'm an adult now.
Yes, and you find disrespect, and some people actually thinking, or some teenagers actually thinking that, okay, their parents are against them or not wanting them to be happy. Just like you mentioned that first time about, okay, some persons feeling like maybe my parents, they are not smart enough, or they are the older generation.
Yes.
So they don't know what is happening these days. This is the reigning thing. And, just get disrespectful at home, disrespecting elders, and feeling like whatever you think I also know it as well. And then I can talk to you however you like. Now, some of those stories are scary, because I used to have a neighbor that, just started disappearing. From this normal, from the street relationships. As a teenager. Hello. Good afternoon. I used to have a neighbor, like, from these street relationships, she was a teenager, and then all of a sudden she started leaving home. She started leaving home, and it would get to a point where the dad, they'll actually lock her and ask all the brothers, like, keep an eye on this girl. And then she would pretend like, okay, she was helping her mom in the kitchen to do stuff, and before you know it, she was out of the picture already.
Okay.
I mean, those at that stage, they know how to plot. I hear these stories.
Very,
I
very
see a lot
well.
of these things. They know how to plot, and they know how to even sneak around. You won't even know. It's just that, okay, as a child, once something is off, a parent is able to notice, like the siblings are able to notice that, okay, something is actually going on with this person. The person is no longer available, it's not behaving like this, how she or he used to behave. Yes. And then like I was talking about, this neighbor of mine, she would actually sneak out, and it got to a point where if she comes back and then gets a beating. Hello. Yes, hello. This is SPEEDy Talk on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM, and my name is Marysyntia Hangeior, together with
Felicity Gigi.
And on the show this afternoon, we are talking about teenage relationships. Now, you also can call in to be part of this conversation, and the number for you to call is 0808 427 5464.
That is 0808 427 5464.
Call in and let us hear how you think that this actually affects their lives, and how we can actually do better, even as the teenagers themselves, younger people who are not up to that age yet, to actually be exploring some of these things, and even as parents, especially early, parents these days, because if you talk about the older ones, some of them were already wise, are already wise about these things, and they used to pay attention. But these days, it's more like, if parents are even the parents of our youth, they're actually relaxing. Okay, times have changed, but then we keep getting even more, like, society keeps decaying. Like, these kids, maybe some of them are getting their futures, ruined, getting into stuff at early stage without the parents actually noticing. So call in and let us hear from you. And well, it got to a point where our neighbor's daughter actually dropped a letter and said they should not look for her again. She's no longer in.
It was that serious.
She's no longer in Makurdi, and she's leaving because they should not look for her. She has, like, moved away. Imagine someone at that stage, getting to the point where they feel like, I am
like,
bold
how old
enough
are
to
we
actually
looking at?
leave. How old? About 16, 15 thereabouts.
Wow.
And she says, she was leaving the house because they're not allowing her to do whatever she wants to do in that place anymore. So it's time. And what we want to ask, like, where does she think she's going to, or where we should actually go to, or where she doesn't have where to stay, and all of those things. But then they start some of these things, right under your roof, like when they start it, okay, sneakily, and maybe you get to notice later on. But by then, it's already established, and they've already gone deep into it, to the point where if you even try to stop some persons, it's something that might be difficult. But shall you give up on them at that point? That is something that we would not want to do, even as parents or guidance, right? So you also can call in to be part of this conversation, and the number for you to call is 0808 427 5464.
That is 0808 427 5464.
All right. So, Felicity, let's talk about this on the final note. Do you think that it's possible for... Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
I'm Shinago Desmond, calling from Villa Suit.
Welcome to the show, Desmond. Go on.
I'm so excited about this topic. It's very interesting topic, and this is what that it has been affecting our generation, our teenagers, and so. It's appreciation. I don't have much to say because I'm still a teenager.
Okay.
So I'm very much interested. I'm just happy listening to this program.
All right.
I want to appreciate you and say you should keep it up.
All right. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for calling in to be part of the show. Now, Felicity, I see we are reaching the right audience.
Yes,
Like, I so
yes.
like that a teenager is actually listening because, I mean, we're talking about them anyway.
Yes.
And they should actually listen because sometimes, okay, even if the parents are maybe reluctant at some point to maybe even show some of this direction, or maybe they miss something, let them also hear and know that, okay, this is about me. I should listen and get 1 or 2 points. Go on.
And then it just came to my head. One of these risks is that this is like something that happened in real life, and I was there. Like there's this girl in my area, but they're not there again, Sha. So she's like, should I say 14, 15? And she was in a relationship. I don't know if anyone in her house, maybe her family members, I don't know if they knew, but we all found out when she was pregnant, like 6 to 8 months pregnant or so, if I'm not mistaken. And according to what I heard, they were trying to like find out who is responsible for the pregnancy and all of that. So I don't know what happened in between, but where I came, I heard something was that she aborted the baby, right?
Imagine that.
And at that stage, the baby was already quite formed. And after she aborted it was at home. And she just tied it in a ladder and threw right in front of her house.
Okay.
And that is how we found it. And she's a very young girl, 14 to 15 years. And I'm like, that's not even normal. At this age, is she even supposed to be exposed to things like that? It was very surprising.
All right. Now, this is Speedy Talk on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. And my name is Marysyntia Hangeior, together with
Felicity Gigi.
and we're talking about teenage relationships. Now, you also can call in to be part of this conversation. And the number for you to call is 0808 427 5464.
That is 0808 427 5464.
Call in and let us hear from you. And from that story that Felicity shared, you can hear some of the things. Like, it starts from one thing, and then before you know, you're getting into another thing, and you're doing another thing. Before you know, your life is at risk. Even the life of another person can even be at risk, because if you birth a child, if you bring a child into this world, you don't want to watch them suffer. You don't want to make them watch them make poor decisions. So even the parents are suffering. Maybe if a child is involved, that child is suffering. You yourself, the teenager who got into that, is suffering. So let us pay attention more to these things. Teenage relationships are complicated, and on one hand, some persons say they can help young people learn about emotions, trust, and even respect. But on the other hand, they can sometimes even distract them from studies, personal goals, and then responsibilities. We have all seen cases where teenagers make poor choices, because of early emotional involvement, falling into risky situations, disrespecting even their parents and other elders, or even facing consequences, things that they did not plan for, taking on early responsibilities when they are not strong enough to actually do some of those things, because of the mistakes that they made, because of some of those things that they think, well, I am too smart to actually do. If you have a teenager around you, don't assume that they know what they're doing. Or even if he or she is quiet, try to check, try to know, okay, find out what is this person up to? Why is he behaving differently these days? Because sometimes they be up to something and they be feeling like, well, I am too smart. And to be fair, people are smart at this. I think as people grow up, as a newer generation even comes in, like, people are getting even more smarter. Some of those tricks, like, they can trick you right under your roof and you don't know it. And the next thing, you're just there having to deal with the consequences for your child, or with your child, with that teenager that you're training under your roof, right? So, I wanted to talk about something, on the final notes, Felicity. Like, do you believe that teenagers can actually balance these relationships and then personal growth? Like, it's okay for them to actually be going ahead with it, and if one is careful, they will still not lose anything? Or is it completely is it something that one should even be advised to just stay off at that age?
Well, I don't like I would not advise a teenager to be in a relationship, but I've seen situations or heard situations where we hear people say that they were involved in teenage relationship and they were actually able to balance it. So I'm saying this from what I've heard someone say. So I think it's possible to balance it if you have that maturity in you, and if you know how to balance it, then it's possible to balance it because people have balanced it.
Okay, it's possible to balance it, but then it's not something that you would personally advise, because there are way more disadvantages according to you involved more than even the advantages, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's how far we can go today on Speedy Talk. We have been looking at teenage relationships and how they actually affect the lives of these teenagers, exploring both the challenges and even lessons that they bring. And I've been your host on the show. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior, together with
Felicity Gigi.
And also, do not go too far, because coming up next at 3:55 p.m. if today is your birthday, then Speedy Kids are going to be wishing you a happy birthday. And also up next at 4 p.m. the Speed Lane comes on right here on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. And until then, keep enjoying music of your life.
Hello, my Cootie. Asking Radio is here. Tell everyone.